Hi, my name is Ginny. I am an elementary school teacher and also a doctoral student. It's the name Ginny B. Ed. And I also am a mom of one beautiful daughter here named Alice. She is almost a year old, and in this video I'm going to tell you all about... Yeah, say hi, Alice. In this video I'm going to tell you all about her birth story, including her stay in the NICU and how I went through some premature labor and how she's doing now. So let's get into it. Okay, so first things first, how did I wind up in premature labor and how did I wind up with a baby in the NICU? Well, it all started when I was 34 weeks, 5 days, and I am a teacher, so I was at school, and I dropped my children off at specials, went to the restroom as usual. You go to the restroom a lot when you are 34 weeks, 5 days pregnant, and after I got out of the bathroom, I realized that I was leaking fluid, and I thought, okay, that's weird because I just went to the bathroom, so I know this isn't pee. I'm not leaking pee. So I called my doctor and I said, hey, I have an appointment today, this afternoon, but I wanted to check in to see if there's something else that I should do because I'm leaking fluid. And they said, well, why don't you just come in just to get checked out in labor and delivery. We don't want you to wait until your appointment just in case, so go ahead, come in and just get checked out. So I went to the front office and I said, hey, I need to go to the hospital. I'm sure I'm going to be back. I'm sure this is nothing. I feel fine. I don't feel like anything is wrong. I'm just leaking fluid and they want me to go get checked just to be sure. So I go to the hospital and they test me to see, basically they swab to see if what you are leaking is actually amniotic fluid. They swab me one time and it comes back negative, and so they're going through the whole spiel of like, well, these are the signs that you're looking for. They're monitoring me for contractions at the time too. I didn't feel them, but apparently I was having them. I don't know how I didn't feel them, but the nurse was like, I still see some pooling, so let me just swab you one more time and test just to see. So she swabs me again and she tests me, and lo and behold, it comes back positive for amniotic fluid. So that means I was leaking fluid. And so basically from there, they said, okay, well, we need to call the OB that's on call, and we need to see what we're going to do about this because you are leaking fluid. That's what's happening now. And this is actually a thing that happens medically. It's not common, but it does happen. And it is called pprom. pprom stands for premature preterm rupture of the membrane, or it's preterm premature rupture of the membrane. I'm going to put the title down here for the official term of what I had, pprom. Basically, it just means that your water broke early, before 37 weeks, and so you are not only at risk of infection, but at risk of delivering early. So my doctor came. Luckily, one of the doctors that was on call that day is one of the doctors I really liked. So he came and he said, okay, well, he's an older doctor, but he's very seasoned and very knowledgeable. And he said, well, there's two different things you can do. You can either do expectant management, but you're already 34 weeks, 5 days, so the risk of infection almost outweighs just delivering a little bit early because you're already kind of on the cusp of where we would do expectant management and go to an antepartum room versus just going ahead and delivering. So based on that, he went ahead and decided, let's just go ahead. My baby was measuring large. She was 6 pounds at the time. So, and this was at 34 weeks, 5 days. Who only knows what she would have been full term. But so he decided that we're going to go ahead and we're just going to start labor today. So from there, they brought in the little ultrasound machine and they do the ultrasound, and then they find out, lo and behold, she is a breech. So if you don't know what breech is, breech means that she was feet down, not ideal for delivering vaginally, so I wound up having to get a C-section. Surprise, a C-section. So I wait in that labor and delivery triage room for what seems like an eternity. My husband comes, eventually they take me back. I have my C-section. I'm going to do a whole nother video about a C-section and what that all entails, but my daughter's born. She's 6 pounds 3 ounces. She looks good, she looks big, but she was having some trouble with breathing. So off to the NICU she went, and off to recovery I went. Okay, so now let's talk about why my daughter was in the NICU and what the NICU experience was like, because that's a really important part of this whole thing. So my daughter was in the NICU because her lungs were underdeveloped. It's a very common thing that happens when you give birth early, is their lungs are underdeveloped. She was also having trouble with some bilirubin. So really the primary reason that they sent her to the NICU was so that she could have room air. She had a little nasal cannula in her nose that just helped her, it almost just forced air further into her lungs. She wasn't on a ventilator, but she did need some support with air. So she was on the room air for several days, I want to say about a week. And basically the way that they do it is they have it at a certain level and they try turning it down, see how they do. So that was one of the reasons that she was there. The other reason she was there was her bilirubin levels. She needed to be under those sweet bilirubin lights. So that was another reason that she was there. I think I have a picture I will post over here to show you my daughter with the billy lights. And the last reason she was there was because she was not feeding enough yet. So she actually had the NG tube through her nose to get fed that way. She was being fed breast milk. I was pumping to make sure that she got breast milk, but she was not able to finish a bottle yet, which again is very common for those preemie babies. So the things that I described are stuff that you probably, if you have a NICU baby, you will go through or you might go through. Feeding in particular is one that kind of takes the longest because babies just kind of have to get it, and they have a clock over their head for how long they have to actually finish the bottle. So that was a struggle for me because she was good. She was off the room air, she was off of the heated bed, she was off of everything else, but she wasn't finishing bottles, so she couldn't come home. And that was heartbreaking, and it took so long for me to get over that. I mean, I never really did, to be perfectly honest. I didn't get over it. It was very, very hard every night to go home without my baby. So let me mention how long I was in the hospital and also how long my daughter was in the hospital. I was in the hospital, I checked in Thursday. Thursday's when I delivered my daughter, and I was able to leave on Sunday. They actually said that they were allowing me to stay until Monday if I wanted to, since my daughter was in the NICU, but to be perfectly honest, I knew I wasn't coming home with her, and it was really mentally challenging on me to be there knowing that I was not going to leave with her. Even if I left Monday, she wasn't coming home with me. She was going to stay at the NICU. So I just decided to go ahead and go home and then commute back to the NICU every day, twice a day. There was no Ronald McDonald House where I was. I didn't have an option to just stay there. If I had an option to stay there until she checked out, I absolutely would have done that, no question. So if that's an option at your hospital, definitely ask about it and see if you could do that, because it is taxing to have to go back and forth multiple times a day. So that's what I did. My daughter was in the NICU for 15 days. So 3 weeks from her birth date, and on the 15th day she was allowed to come home. The 14th day is when we did our room-in. Some hospitals do room-ins, which basically is a night where you get to stay with your baby in a room there at the NICU, like it's your own private room, so you're taking care of your baby on your own, but the nurses and the NICU staff are there in case something goes wrong. So we chose to do that. You don't have to, but we chose to do that because we were new parents, and we frankly scared because she had been on a heart monitor since she was born, and we wanted to make sure she was okay. Now I'm going to get to the heart monitor in just a second, but she did come home on a heart monitor as well. So that was how long we were in the hospital. We had an infant apnea monitor that she wore. It was almost like a strap that was around her chest, and it was underneath her armpits, and she had to wear it pretty much 24/7 except out of the bath. That's the only time when she didn't wear it, was in the bath. So she was in this monitor all the time, and the monitor had this ungodly beeping sound if she had a Brady episode or the nodes moved around a little bit, but it was basically for us to monitor her heart rate and if she was having a Brady episode. Something common with NICU babies and also babies that were born prematurely is they have what's called bradycardia. I'll put an explanation of it right down here. But bradycardia episodes, sometimes you'll need to stimulate them, and it's really just like patting their back to remind them, hey, you gotta breathe and do your job to survive. So that's why she had that monitor, and our pediatrician decided to leave her on the monitor until she was 3 months old, not because she was having a ton of episodes, but because he has a policy of no episodes for 30 straight days before he will take any child off of it. So that was why she wound up on that apnea monitor for so long. So the last part of this video I wanted to do was, how is she doing? She was born premature, she's almost a year old, so how is she doing? Well, honestly, she's doing really well. If you were to calculate by her adjusted age, she's about 10 months, but to be frank, we really haven't counted much in terms of adjusted age, because she's really meeting her milestones, maybe just a smidge behind her peers, but She's crawling now, she's pulling up on things, she can babble words. She hasn't said an official word with meaning yet, but babies are different. I mean, there's babies that were born full term that haven't said a word just yet at this point. At this point, she's 11 months old. So she really, Alice, you just dropped your passy. She's really doing well. She eats really well. The only thing that she's she wants to escape and play. The only thing she's really had issues with has been an egg intolerance, but that we think is partially genetic. My husband has an egg intolerance. Alice, do you want to play? Want to play? My husband has an egg intolerance, and so that's just something that's genetic. She is in the 50th percentile for weight. She is at the 50th percentile for height, so she really has caught up a lot by leaps and bounds, and she's been eating like a champion. She's a champion eater. So just because you have a preemie baby, don't think that they're going to be behind and that you should be super concerned. They might be, but it's okay. I mean, that's what the adjusted age is for. So I just wanted you to know that if you do have a preemie, they'll be just fine in all likelihood. This girl was on that heart monitor until she was 3 months old, and now she does just fine. She doesn't need a heart monitor, does she? No, she doesn't. No, she doesn't. So I will end the video here. Just wanted to update that. If you have any questions about the NICU life, obviously my stay was not quite as long as other parents have been, but I definitely went through it and did not expect it. It was a hard experience for me, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. So thanks so much for stopping by. If you like what you saw, feel free to give a thumbs up or subscribe, and I will see you next time.